Welcome to another episode of So You Think You Know Westerville. Have you ever wondered how Africa Road received its name? In the decades before the Civil War, near the area where the Alum Creek Lake and Dam now are, there was a community called East Orange. It consisted of a store, a blacksmith shop, two churches, a shoe shop, and 7 or 8 homes. A lot of the people who lived there were anti-slavery and worked to help runaways escape to Canada. Now, in the 1840s and 1850s, Americans were bitterly divided over the question of slavery. Slavery was a thriving institution at this point in American history, and improved technology and a growing enslaved population led to a cotton boom in the South, and slave owners were sending their cotton and raw materials to factories in England and New England as fast as they possibly could. But the land was beginning to wear out, and slave owners found their solution in westward expansion. They fought vigorously to expand slavery to newly formed states and territories, especially the ones gained from the war with Mexico in the 1840s. In 1850, pro-slavery and anti-slavery politicians reached a series of compromises that affected countless communities across the country, including East Orange. One of those compromises was the Fugitive Slave Act, which enforced an earlier law that gave slave owners the legal right to recover their escaped slaves, even within the boundaries of free states. In 1859, a group of enslaved men, women, and children from North Carolina began making their way to Ohio. We don't know exactly how many there were. Some accounts say 28 people, some accounts say 35 people, but the oldest, Viney, was over 72 years old, and the youngest one, Maggie, was just a baby. Their owner, Miriam Alston, had died several years earlier, and her last will and testament stated, "It is my will that all the rest of my slaves shall be free, and I therefore give all my slaves, Abner excepted, to my executor hereinafter named, and trust that he will remove them as soon after my death as he can lawfully do so, to some free state, to be there emancipated." We don't know what her motivation was for freeing her slaves, but it's important to note that she didn't free them in North Carolina immediately following her death. She clearly wanted someone with legal authority to go over with them and make sure that they got onto free soil safely. This would minimize the chance of slave hunters using the Fugitive Slave Act to kidnap them and sell them back into slavery. The executor's son, Henry Marley, accompanied them on their journey. They were originally going to settle near the Ohio River, but it was a little too close to Kentucky, which was a slave state. So they continued further north to Westerville, where Marley finally signed their deed of emancipation. The Alstons, who shared their former owner's last name, settled into several log cabins in East Orange. William Hunt, the grandson of East Orange resident and abolitionist Samuel Patterson, described some pro-slavery men living near the community but not in it began calling the place Africa in derision. The name stuck, and that nickname can still be seen today in Africa Road and on the historical marker that's in the recreational area below the dam. It's a name that was originally born out of racism, but it also speaks to the efforts of Ohioans who fought against injustice and the resilience of African Americans living under a brutal economic system. Africa is ultimately a name that teaches us about the complexity of our community and our nation's history. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for another episode of So You Think You Know Westerville.